Okay, I just want to make a quick video about Linux applications that I use practically every day for my own personal productivity. The first one would be putty, and putty is a graphical SSH client. There's also a Windows version available, and it might seem kind of weird that I'm using a non-native SSH client in Linux when I could easily just go to the terminal and type, SSH, the IP address or host name and so forth, and use it that way. And I used to do it quite a bit, and I just quite frankly got tired of typing in frequently used machines so often, and it's got tedious to me. So now I can just save commonly used sessions in putty and double click them and then access that host that way. And that's why I like to use putty versus the terminal SSH version. So that's one application. Another one I like to use is called Zim, and this is actually called a desktop wiki. And I came across it one time when I was researching localized versions of wikis. I use it in a very basic fashion. It's got a lot of capabilities, but I use it kind of in a notepad, advanced notepad type of capacity. And I use it mostly for creating lists for myself because I don't have that great of memory. So I create lists in here, to-do lists for personal reasons and for work reasons. And also I keep scrap notes in here, versus when I used to just jot things down in Notepad, and before I'd have all these text files all over the place, and it was extremely unorganized and unwieldy. So I definitely like to use them nowadays. And on that note, for Notepad, I use gedit, which is the GNOME default Notepad type app. And what's nice about this is that it's tabbed, and also it can understand most popular programming language syntax. For example, here's a C program, and then you see it's highlighted the syntax appropriately. So if you still use Windows, definitely look into using Notepad++, which is another great application. Another application is VirtualBox. And this is kind of a open source VMware workstation type application. You can create VMs and various OSs. I use this mostly for testing, number one, and for number two, I use it for just out of curiosity. I like to play around with the different Linux distros like OpenSUSE, Fedora, Mint, etc. And this is entirely free, and it's I'd say it's practically just as good as Workstation minus a couple features. Okay, and for music, I like to use Audacious. It's a simple application that plays MP3s and various other formats depending on what plugins you have installed. I like it because it reminds me of Winamp years ago, and I've kind of grown to just appreciate the Winamp minimalistic style. I'm not so much of a fan of the huge iTunes type interfaces. But that's all about personal preference. This is what I like to use. In Windows, you can use an application called Songbird and put it in a minimal view, and it'll show up just like this in a Winamp type fashion. Okay, there's two more native GNOME apps that I use literally every day, and probably most people take these for granted, but use them just as much as I do. For instance, the Archive Manager. This is your application used to zip and unzip files, to unrar files, stuff like that. I believe it was originally called File Roller. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was. I use this just about every day, and that's one. The other one would be the GNOME Document Viewer, which I believe is called Events. I'm not sure if that's how you properly pronounce it, but that's how I call it. Here it is. And this is your general use PDF viewer. It also understands a couple other formats like I think install, yeah, the comic book formats, the Deja Vu, various other formats. And what's nice about this is if I open a PDF in it, it remembers where I left off in the PDF. And this would be like your Adobe Reader in Windows. There's also a open source PDF reader in Windows called Sumatra. That's also pretty decent. Okay, for web browsing, I pretty much exclusively use Chromium, which is the open source version of Google Chrome. For quite a few years, I was a Firefox loyalist since when it used to be called Phoenix days. But recently, I gave Chrome a try, and it's now become my favorite browser of choice. Of course, I'll still be sad if Firefox ever ends up going completely away. Okay, now there is FileZilla, which is a graphical FTP client, and it also can do SFTP. This is also, there's a Windows version available. The only thing I could compare it to that I can think of in my history would be, in Windows there used to be a FTP client called QtFTP. So it's a similar concept as QtFTP is. And then finally there is Pigeon, which is a open source instant messenger. I'm sure most people have heard of this. There's also a Windows version available. It's been around a long time. It used to be called Game, as in G-A-I-M. And in recent years it changed its name to Pigeon. Here are the, this is, it understands a lot of the popular instant messaging protocols, for instance AIM, Gtalk, ICQ, MSN, Yahoo, Messenger, so forth. I remember for me personally, it used to always be about ICQ, then it was AIM, and now pretty much all my friends that I talk to are using Gtalk because of, you know, Android devices and whatnot. I personally don't do any Facebook, so I bet that's popular as well, though. And that's pretty much it for apps that I use day to day. You know, quick overview. Some background I could give is that I use Linux as my main productivity environment for the last 5+ years. I do still have a Windows partition installed, but I really only use it for Netflix streaming and playing the occasional game. Everything else I do productivity wise is in Linux. I'm actually at a loss when I'm away from my my Linux productivity environment. And that's pretty much about it.